One of the things that's so unique about this particular medium is that it's been both used to honor human life and to deliberately denigrate it. Photography was weaponized through the history of racial science to prove polygenesis. What is lost if you don't understand the history of African American photography is the incredible amount of work that has been done to create counter-narratives that offer, I think, productive, corrective moves with an honor and dignity that we're still striving to put on various magazine pages, newspaper pages. You see this parallel path of insistent humanity, insistent dignity. I think American citizenship has long been about this merger of pictures and progress. You all wrote extraordinary response papers. Many of you focused on the way in which the camera ultimately is used not just by someone like Gordon Parks, but in general as a weapon to create new narratives, right? I'm based here at Harvard. I'm a professor here, and I could not be more grateful to do the work that I do. Part of the work of culture is to get us to see past our blind spots. Increasingly today, we are reading the world through pictures. We all have a level of visual literacy that is informing how we make meaning of what's around us. Why should art and culture matter for justice? What does it say about our norms and our laws that we need to count on culture to perform a kind of work to get us to see each other anew? This is really the question behind the question that drove Frederick Douglass to consider this during the Civil War, that brings us to Harvard University to have a convening to think through these ideas. The journey to honor the dignity and humanity and the fullness of human life cannot be waged without pictures. This is something I've come to understand, and this is what Frederick Douglass knew.
Every time Douglass saw an image of himself taken by a photographer, it was the anti-statement through the ocean of negative images that have been fabricated to justify the slave trade. He understood that the subjectivity of the person of African descent was dependent upon the creation of a self. Douglass was a master of visual literacy.
This is the most photographed American man in the 19th century. Not African American man, photographed American man. What did he know about himself? What did he know about our need for multiple images of a representative figure like Douglass? He writes at the end of his speech that it might take over 150 years. Quite humbly, he said, for someone to come along and better explain what he meant. And I'd like to believe, and I know, that it's a scholar like Deborah Willis who he had in mind.
The only way you could have true visual literacy in the African American tradition is if scholars assemble the works that have been created by Black visual artists and make them available to us. Deborah Willis is peerless in terms of plumbing the archive and preserving what you might call African American ways of seeing.
What I believe that Sarah Lewis tried to do is to inform the contemporary world, a new way of thinking about looking at images. How do we connect the 19th century to 21st century artists?
Our perceptions have changed as a result of the work of artists and culture. An image that creates an epigraph for that idea, to my mind, is the virally disseminated image taken by White House photographer Pete Souza of this young boy, Jacob Philadelphia. He wants to know, is my hair texture really the same as yours? This young boy needs evidence that he too can be the commander-in-chief, that he too can be the president. American citizenship has long been a project of vision and justice. It launched a project, a laboratory of initiatives, a civic curriculum, a convening.
I think the convening is the 3D living embodiment of all that's implied in the premises of vision and justice. It's bringing the special issue to life.
Building community and sharing community and family is justice.
People from different fields, but people who are all committed to the goal of seeing justice, seeing love in public. This is life-changing, this is life-giving work. Having the visual and the verbal vocabulary to be able to read the world around me and understand why I see what I see, and to have the tools to tell my own story, I think is really important.
What's the persuasive efficacy of a picture today? Do they harden your beliefs or stereotypes about other groups? Or can they persuade you to see the world differently? I do hold out the belief that the kind of productive stillness that we've seen in response to the aperture issue, the way in which it does stop people in their tracks, is a way forward. And lets me retain my belief in the work of photography. Pictures work. And they let us get to work.
This is an extension of the work of W.E.B. Du Bois at Harvard. He took his knowledge through his engagement with the African American community to reshape the way we saw ourselves, but also the way we saw our responsibility to do important works. I think vision and justice is very much in that legacy.
When I saw Vision and Justice, immediately I thought, another monument in the history of great anthologies. Precisely because images have been used to oppress us for so long. We have to know that history and then know the history, the geniuses among us who have implicitly fought back against those negative images and explicitly insisted on representing Black ways of seeing the world. That's why I think this convening is a brilliant idea.